It was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. My brother's wedding day had finally arrived, and everyone in the family was glowing with joy. The house was filled with flowers, the scent of roses mixing with the sound of laughter and traditional music, but none of us knew a storm was quietly waiting, a secret so explosive that it would tear everything apart within a single evening. Before I begin the full story, please subscribe to our channel so you never miss stories like this. My name is Emily Carter. I am 23 years old, and this story is about my brother Daniel Carter, who is 27. He was always the pride of our family, the one everyone looked up to. Daniel was smart, kind, and had worked hard to build his career. When he finally announced his engagement to Sophia Miller, a sweet and beautiful woman from a respected family, everyone thought their love story was perfect. For months, we had been preparing for this wedding, from the venue decorations to the guest list. Every detail was carefully planned. I remember standing in front of the mirror that morning wearing my bridesmaid's dress, thinking this is going to be the most beautiful day of Daniel's life. I had no idea that by the end of the night, my brother's smile would vanish forever. The entire neighborhood seemed to buzz with excitement. Relatives from far away had already arrived, filling the house with chatter. My mother was busy making sure everything was perfect, and my father looked so proud, greeting guests with a wide smile. Daniel, dressed in his black suit, looked like a man who had everything: love, respect, and a bright future ahead. But there was something strange I noticed. While Daniel was smiling, there were moments his eyes wandered away, almost as if something was bothering him. I thought it was just nerves. After all, weddings are overwhelming, but now when I think back, maybe he knew something we did not. Sophia, the bride, was glowing in her white gown. She was the picture of happiness, surrounded by her bridesmaids. As they adjusted her veil, everyone whispered about how beautiful she looked. To anyone watching, it was the perfect fairy tale. Just an hour before the ceremony, I was standing near the dressing room when a woman, someone I had never seen before, approached me. She was in her late 30s with sharp eyes and a tense expression. "Are you Emily, Daniel's sister?" she asked quietly. "Yes," I replied, confused. She leaned closer and whispered words that froze me in place. "This wedding should not happen before the night ends. You will see the truth yourself." Before I could respond, she walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I was left shaken, my heart racing. Who was she? What did she mean by the truth? I thought about telling Daniel, but then I convinced myself she was probably some jealous guest, or maybe just crazy. I did not want to ruin my brother's big day with unnecessary drama, so I kept silent. That was my first mistake. The hall was packed with people, their faces glowing under the lights. Music filled the air as Daniel stood at the altar waiting for Sophia. When she walked down the aisle, holding her father's hand, everyone gasped at how stunning she looked. Daniel's eyes softened, and for a moment, I thought everything was going to be okay. The vows began. Daniel promised to love and protect Sophia forever. His voice strong and steady. Sophia repeated her vows, her eyes filled with tears. The guests clapped, and my parents wiped their eyes. Everything seemed perfect. But just as the priest was about to pronounce them husband and wife, a loud voice echoed through the hall, "Stop this wedding." Everyone froze. I turned toward the sound, and my heart nearly stopped. It was the same woman who had spoken to me earlier. She was standing at the back of the hall, her face pale, but determined. Gasps spread through the crowd. Daniel's face went white. Sophia looked terrified. The woman began walking forward, her heels clicking against the marble floor, every step louder than the last. "Daniel," she said loudly, her voice trembling yet powerful, "you cannot marry her, not without telling the truth." The entire hall erupted in whispers. My father shouted, "Who are you? What truth are you talking about?" The woman ignored him and fixed her eyes on my brother. "Tell them, Daniel, or I will." Daniel's hands shook. "Please, not here," he whispered. But the woman raised her voice, "Everyone deserves to know, Sophia, the man you are about to marry is not who you think he is. He has been living a lie." The crowd gasped again. Sophia's face turned pale. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Daniel is already married." The words hit like a thunderclap. Silence fell across the hall. Guests stared in disbelief, some covering their mouths. My mother almost collapsed, and my father grabbed her arm to keep her steady. Sophia's bouquet slipped from her hand, crashing onto the floor. I could not believe what I was hearing. My brother married. It did not make sense. He never told us anything. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear the rest. The woman pulled out a folded piece of paper from her purse. It was a marriage certificate with Daniel's name signed clearly at the bottom. This, she said, her voice breaking, is the truth he has been hiding. The hall exploded with noise, guests shouting, cameras flashing, some people trying to leave in shock. Sophia turned to Daniel, her eyes full of rage and betrayal. Is this true? She screamed. Daniel's lips trembled. Sophia, please let me explain. But before he could finish, Sophia slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed like a gunshot. You ruined my life, she cried, her voice breaking. My parents rushed to Daniel, demanding answers. Relatives surrounded the woman, asking who she was. I stood frozen, my entire body shaking. That is when the woman said something that made the whole situation even darker. I am not just his wife, I am the mother of his child. The guests gasped even louder. Some women cried out in shock, and Sophia collapsed into her father's arms. Cameras captured everything, whispers spreading like fire. I stared at my brother, hoping he would deny it, hoping he would say it was a lie, but Daniel just stood there silent, his eyes filled with guilt. That silence was his answer. The hall was filled with chaos. People were shouting, crying, and demanding answers, while Daniel stood frozen like a statue. Sophia clung to her father, sobbing uncontrollably, her veil slipping off her head. My mother was trembling, asking again and again, Daniel, what is she saying? Is it true? My father looked furious, his jaw tight, his hands clenched. Daniel finally raised his voice, but it cracked with emotion. Please, just give me a chance to explain. This is not how you think it is. Explain, Sophia screamed, her eyes red with tears. You lied to me, you lied to everyone. The mysterious woman stood tall, her voice steady. I am not here to create drama, I am here because I was tired of living in the shadows. My name is Rachel, and 5 years ago Daniel married me. We even have a son together. He promised me he would never leave us, but then one day he disappeared. He stopped answering my calls, he stopped visiting his own child, and then I discovered he was planning to marry another woman. That is why I am here. Gasps spread through the guests. Sophia collapsed into a chair, shaking uncontrollably. My father turned to Daniel, his voice thunderous. Son, is this true? Do you have another wife and child? Daniel covered his face with his hands. He looked broken. Yes, he whispered, barely audible. Yes, it is true. My mother's cry pierced the hall. She staggered back like she had been stabbed. How could you do this, Daniel? She whispered. You have destroyed us. Rachel pulled out her phone and showed pictures to the guests. There were photos of Daniel holding a small boy, smiling at the camera. They looked like a happy family together forever, she said bitterly. That was the promise he made to me. Sophia pushed the pictures away, her sobs growing louder. You betrayed me. You made me believe in a dream when you were living a lie. Daniel dropped to his knees in front of her. Sophia, please listen to me. Rachel and I were never truly in love. It was an arranged marriage forced by her family. I tried to make it work, but my heart was never in it. We drifted apart. I wanted to end it. But I was afraid of judgment, afraid of breaking her heart. And then when I met you, Sophia, I felt alive. For the first time, I could not resist loving you. But Rachel cut him off. If you wanted freedom, you could have been honest. Instead, you built a new life while abandoning me and your son. How do you explain that, Daniel? The crowd began to turn against him. Whispers grew louder. People shook their heads, calling him a liar, a cheater, a disgrace. My parents could not even look at him. Sophia finally stood up, her eyes blazing with rage. You chose lies over truth. You chose selfishness over love. You are nothing but a coward. I will never marry you. Her words shattered Daniel. He reached out to her, but she pushed him away so hard that he fell back onto the floor. The cameras flashed, capturing every second. Guests recorded everything, eager to spread the scandal across social media. Rachel picked up her son, who had been standing silently in the corner, a little boy with wide, innocent eyes. Look at him, Daniel, she shouted. This is your son. He deserves a father. But all he got was betrayal. Daniel broke down in tears, reaching out toward the child, but Rachel pulled the boy closer. You lost this right the day you walked away. The atmosphere was suffocating. The music had stopped long ago, leaving only the sound of cries and angry voices. Some guests left the hall in disgust, others stayed to watch the drama unfold. I felt torn between anger and pity. Daniel was my brother, but what he had done was unforgivable. The shame he brought to our family would never fade. I could see my mother's spirit breaking, my father's pride shattering, Sophia's dreams turning into dust. The police suddenly arrived. Apparently someone had called them because of the chaos. The officers asked questions, trying to control the situation, but the truth was already out. Daniel had been exposed in front of everyone. Rachel refused to press charges, but her final words were like knives. Daniel, you will never be free from this. You will carry the shame forever. She turned and walked out of the hall holding her son tightly. Guests stepped aside whispering as she passed the heavy doors closed behind her, leaving silence that felt louder than any scream. Daniel collapsed to the ground, his hands covering his face. He sobbed like a broken child. "My life is over," he whispered. Sophia removed her engagement ring and threw it at him with trembling hands. "You destroyed my life. You destroyed everything." She walked away, supported by her father, her tears leaving a trail of heartbreak behind her. The wedding was officially over. The decorations, the music, the flowers, all meaningless now. The day that was supposed to be filled with love had turned into a nightmare. My parents sat in silence, my mother holding her head in her hands, my father staring at Daniel with a look of pure disappointment. The proud father, who once introduced his son with pride, now looked at him as if he were a stranger. I wanted to comfort them, but I felt paralyzed. My mind kept repeating the same question. How could my brother hide something so big from us? How could he destroy so many lives with one secret? Hours passed, but the pain remained. Guests left slowly whispering about the scandal. Some promised never to forget this day. This was no longer just a wedding, it was a story that would haunt our family forever. That night at home, silence filled every room. My father did not speak. My mother cried quietly in the corner. Daniel locked himself in his room, refusing to eat, refusing to face anyone. The house that had been filled with laughter only hours before now felt like a grave. And deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. The real storm was yet to come. The following morning, sunlight entered our house, but it brought no warmth. The air was heavy, filled with silence and broken dreams. I could hear my mother sobbing in her room, and my father pacing back and forth, angrily whispering words he did not want anyone to hear. Daniel had not come out of his room since last night. I finally gathered the courage to knock on his door. After a long pause, he opened it. His eyes were red, swollen from crying. His face looked pale. He was no longer the confident man everyone admired. He looked like a shadow of himself. "Why did you do this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "How could you keep such a secret from us?" Daniel placed his hands on his head. "I was scared. I thought I could hide the past and build a new future, but the truth always finds a way to come out. I never wanted to hurt Sophia. I truly loved her, but I was weak. I was a coward. Your weakness destroyed everything," I replied. Mother cannot stop crying. Father cannot even look at you. Sophia may never trust anyone again, and that little boy will grow up knowing his father abandoned him. Do you even realize what you have done? Daniel collapsed on the floor. Tears streamed down his face. "I know I ruined everything. I will carry this guilt for the rest of my life. I do not expect forgiveness, not from Sophia, not from Rachel, not even from our parents." The day passed with endless tension. Calls kept coming from relatives, some angry, some shocked, some curious. They all wanted answers. My parents were humiliated in front of the entire community. A wedding that was supposed to be a moment of pride turned into a lifelong scar. By evening, Sophia came to our house with her father. Her face was pale, but her eyes were full of strength. She looked at Daniel. "One last time, you betrayed me in the worst way possible, but I will not let your lies define my life. I will rebuild myself without you." She took off the engagement ring again, placed it on the table, and walked out with her father. She did not look back even once. That simple act broke Daniel completely. He stared at the ring, his body trembling. He whispered, "She deserved better. I destroyed the best thing in my life." Later that night, my father finally spoke. His voice was stern. "Daniel, you have not only destroyed your own life, but you have brought shame to this family. Our name was once respected, but now people whisper about us. Do not think you can stay here forever. You must leave tomorrow. You must face the consequences of your actions on your own." My mother cried, begging him to reconsider, but my father remained firm. Daniel said nothing. He simply nodded, as if he had already expected this punishment. The next morning, Daniel packed his belongings quietly. He did not look anyone in the eyes. He carried a small bag and walked out of the house. My mother collapsed into tears watching her son leave, but my father held her firmly and said he made his choice, and now he must live with it. Weeks turned into months. The story of the ruined wedding spread everywhere. Some people felt pity for Sophia, some blamed Rachel, some cursed Daniel, but no one could forget the shock of that day. Sophia slowly rebuilt her life. She focused on her career and surrounded herself with supportive friends. She refused to let betrayal break her completely. Rachel raised her son with dignity, never allowing bitterness to consume her, though she never forgave Daniel. As for my parents, they aged overnight. The laughter in our home disappeared, replaced with silence and sorrow. They loved their son, but they could not ignore the destruction he had caused. I heard from distant relatives that Daniel moved to another city, trying to start over, but no matter where he went, the past followed him like a shadow. His name had become a symbol of betrayal, his future uncertain, his soul haunted by the truth he tried to bury. Sometimes at night, I still remember the moment when Rachel walked into that hall holding her son, the silence that followed, the screams that erupted, the look on my sister's face when her world shattered. That day taught me a lesson I will never forget. Lies may survive for a while, but they always collapse in the end. Truth may be painful, but it is the only foundation that can hold a life together. The wedding day was supposed to be a beginning, but it became the end of everything. The flowers withered, the music faded, the decorations turned to dust, but the memory of that explosion of truth will remain forever. And in my heart, I knew nothing would ever be the same again.